Hey guys, welcome back to the steamer trunk build. Got everything out of clamps. Everything just is really turning out lovely. Obviously we're gonna go after the lid and the tray. This is my last day that I get to play in Chet's shop. So kind of really need to push as hard as we can to get one of these wrapped up today. We'll just see where the day takes us. It is what it is. But Chet may be finishing these up after I go. We shall see. So anyways, we're gonna get going on the lids first. Everything from this point forward is relative dimensioning relative to the individual chest. So some of the measurements may be a little bit different and whatnot. Even though we batched out all the parts, our measurements will come from the actual box. All these pieces are dedicated to a particular box. So that's where all the measurements are coming from. So we're gonna probably start on the lid sides and get those sized up right and start working on the lid. So because we went to the solid legs that were a little bit undersized from the plan, we had to make some slight alterations to the panel itself, and we had to veer away from the template that came with it. We had to make a new one and identify our new notches. So I'm just going to cut that out now so I can get everything test fit and make sure it fits up right. Okay, so again, the Rockler plans were a little sketchy on how to cut the mortises and the front and back rails for the lid supports. They wanted you to do this at the drill press and hog out the material with a 1/4-inch brad point bit and then come back and clean it all up with a chisel. Chet and I went ahead and we built this simple jig and put a center line on it so we can mark it and line it up just where we want. And then we'll just use a couple of clamps to hold everything in place. Now it can't slide. Our board is secure. Everything is well supported. And then this board that we screwed on the back here is the stop to give us the 1/4-inch that we need. So we'll end up with nice mortises with a little less work. So just a shop jig. So while I'm routing mortises, Chet is just taking a small chamfer to all the strapping material that we have. We'll start getting those glued in here very soon. Okay, so we need the first step for cutting all of these lid supports is we need to cut the tenon on the end. And I set up a scrap block and created this piece. All of the pieces themselves are cut to length. We just set up a little spiral bit in the router table, and we're gonna create that tenon on the router table. And then we'll come back and put our template on, get it drawn out, and get to the bandsaw. So Chet's cutting the last lid support for this one now, but I thought I'd give you a look at what that actually looks like going together. Fitting up really nicely. I know those front and the backs look tall, but they actually get cut 38 degrees for a spline miter, so they'll wrap around. Make more sense here in just a little bit. Okay, so we've cut a couple of scrap pieces as we get ready for the spline miter. The plans called for 38 degrees, and we ran a little test cut to see if that would fit, considering we changed the dimensions of the box just a little bit. And the 38 degrees seems to work still fine, but we're going to go ahead and run some test pieces just to be sure. So the blade's set at 38 degrees. I'll lower it down below amputee depth, and we'll cut us a couple of test pieces. So there's the test fit. Everything's still loose. That's why you see gaps here and stuff. But reality is that our angles fit really, really nice. So we're happy with that. So we're going to go to cutting our real pieces at that. Then we'll come back and add the spline miter. So we ran some test cuts, and because we're at 38 degrees on the overall, we had to move the fence to the other side. We left the angle the same, and it's a little dicey to get through here. So we're going to use a push block and a push stick to get through. And there's really no other way to do it correctly. So there's the fronts and the backs of the lid. We left the splines long. We'll just cut those off when we're done. And we use blue tape to hold it together. The instructions called for a band clamp, but the blue tape works just as well. So while we're waiting for glue to dry on the front and back splined miters, we're just going to go ahead and get some of this strapping in place that has to happen. We cut all these pieces in the last video. We're just getting around to cutting them to length and putting them on. I'll put that shim in next for the lock that goes on. That's the last piece that goes in here. Well, there it is. Not too many clamps left on the rack. I'm just going to let that cure now until we can get around and get the screws in the top. We'll let that sit at least a couple hours, have dinner, and then we'll go after the rest of the screws. Hey guys, sorry to leave you with a still picture and a voiceover for the ending on this one. I forgot to turn my microphone on. So we didn't get the trunk done, but I'm going to go ahead and take the trunk from this point back to my shop. So the next video, we'll be finishing this up in my shop. I want to pass out a huge thank you to Chet for all his wonderful help, his very talented two hands, and his really nice shop. Chet made my working trip this time so much fun. Special shout out to his wife, who was gracious enough to cook me a home-cooked meal every week, which is just super nice to have when you're on the road for work. Anyways, guys, stay tuned for the next video, and we'll try to get this trunk finished up. Take care.